This story starts by the end of spring 2025. It's the story of how I attempted to break my 3-year-old 5k PB, making all the necessary adjustments. Now, as an older runner, I do perform better in longer distances, and so I rarely race 5k. But after years of not much progress, I was really determined to increase my speed. So in this endeavor, I also had intermediate goals, like breaking my 3k PB, increasing my stride length, and improving my technique in general.
I would need another 6 weeks of training. I would need to increase the length of the interval, but you know, it's just an opportunity to see what I can do. It's also very humid, something like 80% humidity, or like 1 kilometer away from the sea.
I had a gel like 5 minutes before the start, which might not have been such a good idea. In this race, I had programmed my watch to lap every 400 meters because I had been doing 400 meter repeats in previous sessions. That turned out to be a terrible idea. So I went off at around 4 minutes 40 per kilometer, much too fast, following the 4 minutes per k pacer. Then thought I should slow down, then settled into a pace that was too slow. I thought it might be the GPS, but actually the third and fourth 400 meter lap were equally too slow. They seemed slower than they actually were because I couldn't see the pace on the watch, but so I started to mentally sort of give up. While thinking about the pace and thinking that a PB was impossible, I was not focusing on my stride and my breathing.
It's over for me. I had to stop at 2.5k. Very humbling.
My heart rate went the highest I had seen in a very long time, like 162 beat per minute, which for me is very high. I started noticing sort of stitches after the first mile. Actually, the same happened in my last 10k race attempt a couple of months ago, but perhaps that was due to my breathing. So after the race, I thought what I should improve next time was auto-lap the watch every kilometer. Don't look too much at the watch, focus on my form and my breathing, and do not take a gel just before the start. So I went back to training and did some speed sessions, typically 800 meter repeats.
First 2 reps done. I'm not really able to maintain the speed I'm supposed to. Let's try to do a few more reps at least. Halfway in the 3rd rep, I've been slowing quite significantly. My legs cannot propel me forward. Okay, I've done 2 more reps, trying to target a slower pace, see if I could hold it consistently. But even so, my legs cannot push me anymore after the first 300-400 meters. So I fade out quite a bit. I guess it might be the lactate accumulating. Actually, I've only started to feel lactate in my legs at the end of the 5th rep, so I'm not too sure. Okay, same thing for reps 6 and 7. I think I'll call it there.
Alright, so that confirms what happened during the last race. I just cannot hold a fast pace for more than 2.2 kilometers. The stride length was not too bad. I just could not maintain a powerful stride. So at this point I thought I should do a bit more threshold training. I should increase the length of the intervals up to 1 kilometer and perhaps then 1 mile. Unfortunately, I did not do that because I couldn't find any proper location for that. I should keep working on my stride length with the extension of the leg behind my body. And then I thought potentially with fresher legs and better weather conditions, I could perhaps hold it up to 3k. So then I switched my objective to attempt a 3k PB in my next race. So the second attempt was a 6k race. My intention there was to try to hold a PB pace around 4:15 per kilometer for at least 3 to 4 kilometers. I did a much longer warm-up in that case, around 6 kilometers, and I had more time before the race. I was less in a hurry. I did not take the start line gel. So this race was not in the afternoon, it was at 9 a.m, but it was equally hot and humid. However, I did feel acclimated, so the heat was not going to be what was going to hold me back. I went off more reasonably and tried to stick to the group that I was running in and tried to keep in touch with 4 minute per k pacer, at least to keep them in sight. I did not look at the watch too much, although I did see the kilometer splits. In fact, it was kind of hard to try to resist the temptation to continuously look at the watch, but doing so I could focus better on my stride and my posture. So I slowed down at kilometer 3, but not too much, partly due to the water station and filming and drinking. And then I stopped pushing after kilometer 3, just after the water station. I could have potentially continued for 1 more kilometer or so, but at a much slower pace, so there was no PB on the cards anyway. But in the end, I was just 4 seconds off my 3K PB. Of course, this is not official, this is just based on the GPS. My heart rate was rather stable at around 161 beats per minute when I sort of stopped. So that means I guess I have like 3 or 4 beats per minute of margin still to reach my maximum, meaning in theory I should be able to continue up to 5K. So the conclusions of this second attempt were that first of all, I'm not sure I'm getting the most of the vaporflies, so I might try the alpha flies next time. And second of all, my stride length decreased noticeably after the first kilometer, as always. So I think I might be lacking power in my legs. So I continued training with the same 800 meter repeats, trying to hit a pace of 10 to 15 seconds below my PB pace. My stride length was not great, but at least it was more consistent. And I kept trying to push with my leg extended behind my body.
4 reps at a decent pace. I'm done. I'll see if I can do anything else, but not at that kind of pace. Anyway, I believe it's slightly more than last week, so slow progress. That's it, I call it there. 7 times 800, same as last time. The last 3 reps have been much slower, like I could barely hold my half marathon pace. But yeah, okay.
So after this session, I thought, one, the vaporflies are not giving me the highest amount of bounce and thrust forward. I thought perhaps I should try on the track at some point. And third, I thought I might try to increase my breathing cadence to try to get more oxygen in. Although I don't think this is going to be the limiting factor. In fact, I tried to do that in the next session, which I didn't film, but with no effect other than not feeling natural at all. Third attempt. So this is a 10K race, but my intention is to race only 5K and then float the rest to the finish. Unfortunately, I arrived late at the start, so my warm-up was clearly insufficient and a bit hurried. So the first kilometer felt pretty good at 4:08 per kilometer. In the second kilometer, I felt a niggle at the top of my quad and basically a lack of power. So at this point, my stride length started to drastically decrease. And honestly, in this occasion, I was not mentally determined enough. I was not really focused on my stride, on the leg extension behind, and on holding a good posture and the core and all that kind of things.
It's now just a very slow jog for me. I have to get to the finish line anyway. Okay, I'm gonna try to push the last K, see what I can do.
Bueno. O sea que aquí la que gana en casa es. Enhorabuena.
Well, there was no more conclusions than that I should work on my mental toughness and that I should keep working on speed and intervals, increasing the length of the interval. At the beginning of July, I had a trip to Scotland and ran the Edinburgh Sunset Running Festival half marathon.
My hamstrings are cramping, everything hurts right now, and I'm running pretty slow.
So coming back from the cold and rainy Scotland, I determined I should resume strength training at the gym, which I had ditched for the past 9 months or so. I worked with pretty heavy weight for my legs and also tried to catch up with my upper body and my core. In fact, it turns out I had not lost too much in my lower body, and I relatively quickly managed to retrieve and then even surpass the level I had about a year ago in terms of leg strength. But still, I'm sure that working on the little stabilizing muscles and putting heavy loads on the tendons was definitely beneficial. So during the summer, I focused much more on threshold training, partly because I had to seriously prepare for the Copenhagen half marathon mid-September. Also, I purchased 2 new pairs of shoes, the A6 Metaspeed Edge Tokyo and the Puma DD8 Nitro Elite 3, which I reviewed on the channel and which I tested in several threshold and speed sessions. So I was able to bank several times sessions like 4 times 800 meters plus some 600 meter repeats. So slowly but surely improving upon previous 5K training sessions.
I'm gonna attempt again 8 times 800 meters today at a pace that is well above my 5K pace. So that should be a VO2 max session. I've never been able to complete this session, so we'll see if I can do at least 5 reps. It's extremely hot today. Real field temperature is 45 degrees Celsius, very humid. In fact, you can see the sky is sort of milky. That's because of the humidity. I'm already completely drenched before even starting. So okay, wish me luck.
I kept focusing on the stride length and running technique, trying to not only extend the leg behind, but also introduce some bounce in the gait cycle to increase the flying time.
Okay, I've done 4 reps of 800 meters. I just cannot do any more 800. So I recover a little bit and then try to add another 4 reps of 600s. See if I can. So that's, in terms of pace, is I believe pretty much the same as last week. Last week I was testing the Metaspeed Edge Tokyo. This week I'm testing the Puma Nitro Elite 3. So it's been pretty much the same as last week. I could barely finish the 4th rep. The only difference being it's significantly warmer today. And also today I've been trying to deliberately lengthen my stride and trying some adjustments to my running form, but of course that demands more energy. So yeah.
During the month of July and August, I also increased the length of my easy runs in Minimalist shoes up to around 20 Ks, thereby reinforcing the strength of my soleus muscles and Achilles tendons and fostering ground contact under the body with a flexed knee and dorsiflex ankle. The next race was not really a 5K attempt, but rather I went to this race with the idea of using it as something in between a good 5K effort and a half marathon training session just 3 weeks before the Copenhagen half marathon. So somewhere around my 10K pace, again trying to bounce and push behind my body. So I was able to hold an average of 4 minutes and 29 seconds per kilometer, sort of sub-maximal efforts. Although it failed much too hard, I was happy I could hold it until the finish line without stopping, but I don't think I could have kept this pace for 10K, whereas my 10K PB pace is actually 4:25 per K, so it was not especially great. After that, I continued doing some longer threshold sessions that I had started while testing the new shoes, typically 5 times 2 miles at my target half marathon pace with a long warm-up and cool down. And of course I raced the Copenhagen half marathon, which I suppose you've already seen the video. It went rather well, although I didn't get a PB, but it did give me some confidence, and the half marathon / threshold training gave me the speed endurance that I was lacking. I could also feel that my muscles and tendons were better conditioned at this point. So the 4th attempt is just 1 week after the Copenhagen half marathon. This time I'm going to really give it a good go. I feel that my body is now conditioned to hold a hard effort for up to 5K. And moreover, on the Wednesday before this attempt, I was able to bank another speed session, and this time I could do 6 by 800 meters for the first time. at a pace of 4 minutes 13 per kilometer. In this case, I was using the Vaporflies again, just to remind me how they felt. They really felt very harsh. So yeah, indeed the reps were slower than in previous session, but I thought this could be due to the shoes. So this time I raced in the Metaspeed Edge Tokyo. I was somewhat sick on that day after catching a cold in Copenhagen post-race, and the medication made me feel a little bit drowsy, but okay. So during the race, I didn't look too much at the watch. I tried to think about the ankle movement, but not sufficiently. In fact, I still felt a lack of resistance and conditioning in my soleus muscles and Achilles tendons. I focused on pacing properly and holding it until the 5 kilometer finish line.
Wow. I think that's just about PB.
So now I am confident that I can indeed finish a 5k PB attempt. My heart rate was very high, up to 164 beats per minute, but that's just how it should be for a 5k. I believe this is indeed very close to my maximum heart rate. 1 week later, 5th attempt. Okay, let's try one more time before I really move into marathon training. So on Monday that week, just the day after the previous race, I did a 13k tempo, focusing on the ankle movement again and lifting the leg behind and then ahead while bouncing, so an ample movement. And I got a very good feeling in this tempo run. For some reason I felt a boost of confidence and hope that I could improve a lot. Then on the Wednesday I did another speed / 5k session. Again, I was able to complete rather comfortably 6 times 800 meters. This time at a pace of 4 minutes and 3 seconds per kilometer, so faster in the deviate in that case. Feeling I could have pushed perhaps 1 or 2 more, but I didn't want to kill myself. However, I was conscious that my soleus muscles and Achilles tendon could hardly hold a good technique for about 5k, but I thought it should be feasible. So at this point I didn't feel like the heart rate and the lactate were going to be my limiting factor anymore. It was rather the Achilles. So yeah, there should be room for improvement. Right, so this was a very local race with many hobby runners and kids and families, almost like a park run. The course was quite winding, honestly a bit too much for me, and the queue for collecting the bib was endless. It was a little bit badly organized. I stood literally on the line for 1 hour, so they had to postpone the race. And consequently my warm-up was screwed up because I had warmed up before going to this village from my home, but standing in the line for an hour and then starting immediately after that was a killer. So conclusions from this race, well, obviously it was almost a 1 minute PB, so that's really great. It might be a good strategy to factor in more time between the warm-up and the start of the race. I need to continue strengthening my soleus and Achilles tendon. I need to continue working on my stride. Now from here on I should be focusing on half marathon training leading into the marathon. However, I will try to keep some sharpness in the legs and I might give it another go later in the year with better temperatures. I'm hopeful that I made appropriate changes to my stride and my training. I feel that I should have some room for improvements to the point that I'm going to allow myself to dream with a sub 20 for a while, and hopefully that should also transfer to longer distances. So that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and if you run around, remember to look around. In the meantime, I leave you with this video.